Hello and welcome to another video by Geek Together. So today we'll be talking about Crowdsec and I'll be showing you guys how to protect multiple servers with Crowdsec without having to install Crowdsec security engine on all of your servers in your lab or in your environment. So as you know, installing Crowdsec on multiple servers mean you have to configure Crowdsec on these different servers and you have to make sure your collections and your Crowdsec security engine is up to date on all of these servers. So you can always be comfortable that your servers are being secured properly. But in this case, if you don't want to install the Crowdsec security engine on all of your servers, what you can do is you can have one dedicated server and have your other servers which are running specific applications that you want to protect, send their logs into your Crowdsec server that hosts a database and controls the Crowdsec security engine. So if you look at this diagram here, I have an Nginx Proxy Manager, which we've also made a video about how to install Nginx Proxy Manager and set up with Crowdsec. So we have our Nginx Proxy Manager here, which is also serving as our Crowdsec security engine local API server, and it is also running a syslog server. In your case, you might want to separate this task and install multiple virtual machines or physical virtual machines that will handle the various tasks. But since I'm running this in my lab environment, I have the same machine running Nginx Proxy Manager. The same machine is running the Crowdsec security engine and working as a local API server. And we're also using the same virtual machine as a syslog server. So the ports open on this machine are ports 443 inbound TCP. So this is what we use to host our servers on the internet, and we have our Nginx Proxy Manager exposed over port 443. And then we have port 514 TCP and UDP open, which we're using for our syslog server, because this our virtual machine is going to listen over the port 514 and receive logs from multiple servers or application and store them. So our Crowdsec security engine can pass these logs, and then Nginx Proxy Manager can be notified to take a specific action, either by banning or preventing capture. Talking about capture, you should also check out my other Crowdsec video on how to set up the capture option if you don't want to use banning, and you can also set up capture for specific alerts or specific type of attacks. So with that being said, back to our configuration, we have our 3 web servers that are being protected or exposed to the internet using our Nginx Proxy Manager, and these 3 web servers do not have Crowdsec installed on them. They are just configured to send their logs or their log files to our Nginx Proxy Manager over syslog. So again, we have an Apache Guacamole server, and then we have a Nextcloud server, and then in this case, we're going to have a third server which we're going to test today, which is an Apache 2 server. So it is not WordPress. I need to update this diagram, but it's just an Apache 2 server. That's what we're going to be using today. So each and every one of these servers are configured to send their log files to the syslog server, which is also our Crowdsec and Nginx Proxy Manager server. So now that I've explained to you this scenario, we're going to head back over to the command line and I will show you how to set up your Crowdsec server to also act as a syslog server. So opening up my command line, I have my Crowdsec server here, which is also my Nginx Proxy Manager server. So the first thing we want to do is configure this server to be a syslog server, which means this server is going to receive logs from remote servers and store them. So in this case, we're going to use a program called rsyslog. Rsyslog is what we're going to use to set up and configure our syslog centralized server. In order for you to install rsyslog on Ubuntu or Linux, it's pretty simple. You're just going to run the command sudo apt install rsyslog. In my case, I already have rsyslog installed, so you're going to go ahead and follow the prompts and install rsyslog. So once that's complete, we want to go ahead and run the command sudo systemctl start rsyslog. So once you start rsyslog, you can also go ahead and check the status to make sure that it is running just fine. So as we can see, our syslog is running just fine and we don't need to do anything else. So I'm going to clear my screen, and now we're going to go ahead and configure our syslog so that it can receive log files from other servers. So in order for you to do this, we're going to have to open and edit the rsyslog.conf file, which is located in the etc directory. So you're going to use the command sudo nano etc-rsyslog.conf. And once you open that file, you want to enable the lines that talk about providing UDP syslog reception and provides TCP syslog reception. These two lines are going to be commented out with the hash sign. So you just want to uncomment them by taking out the hash sign in front of them. So once you remove them for these two lines, you also want to remove them for these two lines to enable our syslog server to listen over port 514 for TCP and UDP. So once that's done, the next thing we're going to do is set up the remote log storage location. For this video, you're going to have to paste the option or type these options here inside of your command line. I'm going to have all these settings included in the description section below on my GitHub page. You can just follow and copy and paste them on your rsyslog.conf file. So you want to set up the log location and you want to paste in this the template remote logs, and we're going to have, or we want to save our logs in this case in the var-log directory, and it's going to create a new directory with the host name of the remote server, and then it is going to save the logs as the program name.log. So I'll show you what all of this means later. So once you have these 3 lines or 4 lines pasted in here, that's all you need to do at this point. We'll save the file. And once you have the file saved, the next thing you want to do, of course, is restart the rsyslog service by running the command systemctl restart rsyslog or rsyslog.service. And once that's done, we're going to head over to our remote server, which is our Apache 2 server. We have an Apache 2 web server running on this system. It is just a basic HTTP website. I'm going to show you here. The website doesn't really do anything, but it just displays this text Crowdsec tutorial gig together, and that's it. Your website you're probably trying to protect is probably going to have more static content than I have here, but since this is just for our testing lab, that's good to go. So heading back to the command line, you also want to install rsyslog on this server. But for this server, we're just going to set up rsyslog as a client, since we want to forward our logs from this server into our Crowdsec server, which we are using as our rsyslog server that collects logs from remote machines. So we're going to run the same command here, sudo apt install rsyslog, which I already have installed as well. And once that's complete, you're going to run the next command to open the client configuration file for rsyslog, so we can tell rsyslog to forward all of our log files onto our remote machine. So you want to run the command here, sudo nano -etc rsyslog.d-50-default.conf. Once you open that file, you want to go all the way to the bottom and add this line. Okay, asterisk dot asterisk at for TCP. If you wanted to use UDP, you're just going to remove one of the @ symbols followed by the IP address of your rsyslog server, which in my case here, it is 10.100.10.11. So we have that added there, and we're using port 514. And once you have that, you're going to have to save those settings. And once again, we'll restart rsyslog. If you wanted to send just a specific log, for example, if you were trying to send just the cron logs or auth logs, you're going to do the same, followed by the IP address and then the port of your syslog server. And then you're just going to do the log type, which in this case is cron, and then a period, asterisk, and you're good to go. So, but in my case, we want to send all the log. And once you're done, once again, like I said, you're going to restart the rsyslog service. And now we are good to go. So heading back over to my rsyslog server, I'm going to clear my screen here and I'll cd into the var-log directory, which if I ls, you can see a new folder or directory has been created in here, and it is called remote. This is where all the logs from my remote server, as you can see, the server's name is remote. All the logs from this server is going to be stored in this directory. So before we continue, since in my case, I am trying to protect an Apache server with Crowdsec, what we've done so far is not going to forward Apache 2 logs onto our Crowdsec machine. In order for you to be able to forward Apache 2 logs, there's some more configuration that we have to do on our rsyslog client machine. So we're going to go ahead and use the command nano to open up a file or to create a new file in the rsyslog.d, which is going to be the Apache access log configuration file. So this is a custom configuration file that we're going to create to pull Apache logs and forward them to our remote syslog server. So once you create that file, you're going to have to paste the text I have in here into that file. So remember, I said I have a link in the description section below, which is going to include all these files or the content of all these files that you need to create and paste inside of those files. The reason of me doing this is so we can save time on this video and not have a 30 minutes long video, because this can get really long if I have to do everything on screen manually. So you're just going to have to open up that file, apache_access.log.conf, and paste everything in here. So once you paste that, the only thing you need to change here is change the location of your Apache 2 virtual host logs. For me, my virtual host for Apache 2, the logs are saved in Apache 2 directory in the var-log folder under the access.logs, because this is the first configuration file we're creating for access.log. We're going to have to create another one for the Apache 2 error log file. So once you have that specified, you also want to specify or change the IP address here to match the IP address of your remote syslog server. Remember, for me, it is 10.100.10.11. And then we're going to save that. And then we're going to do the same, create another file, but here we're going to call this one apache_error.log.conf. And once we do that, we're going to paste the same text in here. Remember to change the input file name to your Apache error log file path. And once you put that in there, you also want to replace the IP address with your remote syslog server's IP address. And then you save that, and of course we're going to restart Apache 2. Okay, so once you have that complete, now we're going to head over back to our syslog server, and we're going to cd into the remote directory in the var-log directory. And once we open that, if we do ls, now we can see that every log file that we have inside of our virtual machine, which is our Apache web server machine, all the authentication logs, the Apache logs, and the kernel logs and syslog, they're all also included inside of our rsyslog server, which we are pushing all those logs to. So now we also have our Apache access log and our Apache error log, which is the most important part of this video, because we're trying to secure Apache web server. If you are also trying to secure another application, for example, let's say Nextcloud, you want to make sure Nextcloud is forwarding its logs to this rsyslog server. So now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and cd into our Crowdsec installation directory. Okay, and then we're going to open up the acquisition file using nano. So nano followed by the acquis.yaml file. And once we open that, now we're going to tell our Crowdsec where we have our Apache 2 logs installed. So if we head over to our Crowdsec hub, you can see once again the configuration on how to set up the acquisition file for the Apache 2 collection. So we're just going to copy this and we'll head over to our acquisition file, and we're just going to make changes here to where our Apache 2 logs are included. So we're going to go here and we'll change this to remote, and then we'll do Apache access.log, and then we're going to copy this. We'll do the same for the error file. We're going to copy and paste this below as well. And then for that, it is Apache error.log. And then we're going to save this file. And once you have that saved, if you don't already have the Apache 2 collection installed on your Crowdsec security engine server, we're going to do that right now. So we're going to copy the cscli command to install the Apache 2 collection. And we're going to install that. Once that's done, we're going to reload Crowdsec. Clear my screen. I'm just going to go ahead and restart Crowdsec just to be safe. Make sure everything is working correctly. And I'll clear the screen right now. We'll run cscli metrics one more time. And if we go all the way to the top, you can see that our file for var log remote / apache access.logs, Crowdsec was able to read 6 lines and it passed 6 lines. We don't have any lines which are unpassed, which means everything or all the changes that we made are working correctly. And our parser metrics for Apache 2 was also added successfully. So we'll clear the screen one last time. And now I'll head over to my Kali Linux machine. As you can see, we can access our site remote.geektogether.com, which is an Apache web server. Once again, I have my VPN activated because I don't want my external IP to be blocked by Crowdsec. And then we are going to try to run an attack on this system. So we're just going to run a basic attack using nicto. So we'll run the command nicto followed by h. And the H stands for the host, and then we'll enter the host name. So geektogether.com, and then we'll press and enter. So while we conduct the attack, I'm going to head back over to the command line for Crowdsec, and I will run cscli decisions list. So as you can see, our IP address was blocked from HTTP probing. If we head back over to our Kali Linux machine here, we open up our browser, we refresh, we get a Crowdsec access forbidden block page, which means we've been completely blocked from accessing that web page. Going back to the command line, if we run the command cscli to inspect the alerts, followed by the alert ID here, I think it's 34 right here. So you can see here we get more information about the alert. So we get the reason why we were blocked and our IP address and our country information and so forth. So this brings us to the end of this video. I hope this video helps you understand how you can set up your own Crowdsec environment without having to install Crowdsec on every web server that you have exposed to the internet using Nginx Proxy Manager. Like we've just seen in this scenario, all you need to do is set up your Crowdsec Nginx Proxy Manager installation to be able to receive forwarded logs from your web servers, and then install the required collections and have Crowdsec pass those logs and tell your Nginx Proxy Manager which IPs to block based on what it finds on the application or server logs from these different web services that you're hosting on the internet. This scenario is also going to work if you're running a website that is hosted by Windows IIS server. All you need to do is find one of the syslog tools that can forward your IIS server logs onto your Crowdsec server. That way, Crowdsec has the logs, and you're going to change or make changes to your acquisition file, which is the acquis.yaml file. and include where you have those logs in your Crowdsec instance, and make sure you install the correct collections for IIS, and your Crowdsec is going to be able to pass these logs and detect malicious traffic. In turn, tell your Nginx Proxy Manager bouncer, which is the open registry bouncer, which IP addresses to block. If this video helped you, please do not forget to hit the thumbs up or the like button, and also please subscribe.